day and welcome to Your Right on Trust TV, the program dedicated to educating and empowering you with legal knowledge. I am Hauwa Usman, your host, and today we are looking at a topic that affects both boardrooms and backyards, corporate governance and you. You might be thinking, I don't own a company. Why should I care about corporate governance? But corporate governance is not just about big corporations. It's about how organizations, businesses, and even public institutions are managed fairly, transparently, and responsibly. When a company fails to disclose the truth, when funds are mismanaged, or when public officers act without accountability, that is a failure of governance. And it affects all of us through job losses, poor services, and lack of trust in institutions. To help us understand this better, we are joined by Dr. Maryam Shehu Mohammed, a governance and compliance expert who will break down what corporate governance means in our everyday lives. Before we begin our discussion today, let's hear what some Nigerians are saying about their opinion on corporate governance.
The salary is a worker security. So up to now, when you look at the situation of the country, the salary cannot be able to afford anything again. Just look at a children's school fees, look at the feeding, look at the level of house rent in Abuja now. You cannot be able to meet up with what is your plan in your mind for you to get a compliment or a reward that you are working. You can even work from January to December without no achieve anything because everything is high. To the situation of the country, Nigeria government have to sit up and look out of it. Even for them to increase the salary, look at the tenant of Abuja, increase the rent, transport fare, increment of the fuel, increment of food items, all those things. When you look at it, you cannot be able to meet up. So we're begging Nigeria government for we to get achievement, for we to get accomplishments of a goal. And with the accomplishments of a goal, we can be able to deliver. And without no accomplishments of a goal, we cannot be able to deliver. And you take Nigeria back forward. No achievement, no compliments of everything, which is very bad. And look at the people that are working in the FCT. Look at what they are facing all those while. FCT is into a strike now for a very few days now. When you have a child at home, have a wife at home, without no salary, without no increment of salary, no achieve, nothing. Where are we heading to? This is very bad.
As for salary earners, delaying salary for workers, that's not a good one because it will bring your company down. In fact, you have to entice and pay your workers and make sure that they are paid as when due, so that they'll be able to put in their efforts. Delaying of salary, you are just bringing your business down. That's all. First and foremost, the government have to provide a very conducive environment for business to strive. And also the owner as well, they have to also make sure that they put everything in place to make sure that the place is very conducive for their workers to put in their best. So the government and the business owner should be blamed for that. Well, let me say, our country, Nigeria, there is no way you can say anything of honesty, because the country, there is no honesty. There is no honesty in the country, so how will you talk about honesty? Everybody is now working to see how to make more money. So there is nothing like honesty.
Actually, company perform very well. It will be better for the organization. And all of them have a role to play when it comes to boosting the economy. The decision of government can affect the company. And when the company is good on itself, the management will function very well. So in my own opinion, nobody should go responsible. Because when the government is good, the economic is good. And when the economic is bad, the company cannot perform very well. So you should not blame anybody.
For joining us, Dr. Maryam.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, so Let's start by understanding exactly what is corporate governance.
Okay. Corporate governance is the system by which companies are managed and controlled. It is knowing the structure, knowing the policies, knowing the rights of each component of a company. You have your shareholders, you have your board of directors, you have your management, and then you have your staff. You have also other stakeholders. It is about assigning the right responsibilities to the right arm of the structure of the company and making sure that it is managed efficiently in order to achieve the purpose for which the company has been created or incorporated.
Some of our viewers might be thinking that, well, I am not a director, I'm not a CEO. Why should they be bothered about corporate governance?
We have to be invested in knowing. If you're not a shareholder, you may be a staff. If you're not a staff, you may be in management. You may want to run your own organization.
And so you might even be a customer of the organization.
You may be a customer. You should be interested in the corporate governance of organizations that affect the work that you do. For example, we hear a lot of conversations around environmental protection, right? For companies that drill oil. And so everything that they do may impact on the livelihood, directly or indirectly, of the people.
About climate change and
exactly. So, and we also talk about ESG, right? Environmental. So you talk about ESG. You talk about even corporate social responsibility. All of these things tend to affect people in different ways. Sometimes obvious, sometimes not. You hear people complaining about the attitude of the staff of some organizations that are supposed to provide utility, for example. If you don't know corporate governance, you don't know what your rights are, then chances are that
at what point you're supposed to ask
exactly
what are the benefits or demand for your own rights.
Exactly. So that's that.
So what laws in Nigeria regulate corporate governance?
Okay. First and foremost is the Companies and Allied Matters Act. A company cannot be in existence.
Every company has to be registered.
A company cannot be in existence in Nigeria. A Nigerian-based company cannot be legally existing if it's not registered under CAMA. And CAMA provides a lot of the rules that the companies must comply with, right? Which if they don't, they're penalized for. So other than CAMA, you have the Nigerian Corporate Governance Code, which is a soft law, and it's in tandem with the rules of CAMA. This is a soft law that is supporting
the provisions of the major act.
Exactly. And then a lot of industries, sectors rather, have corporate governance code, like NERC, Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, has a corporate governance code. NCC has a corporate governance code, and you find that they're different. And then you have other regulatory
agencies.
Yes, you have to pay your taxes, which if you don't pay, you're penalized. So the Tax Act, Financial Reporting Council Act. There's so many, but it depends on the industry within which you operate, right? CAMA is standard. Corporate Governance Code is standard, but then there are industry-specific codes depending on where you find yourself. If you're in telecoms, there is. If you're in...
most of us use one mobile network or the other. So one way or the other, we are affected by what's organizations or companies are doing.
And not only in terms of the
direct.
no, not even direct. I remember I had to read up on my rights as a tenant in a residence where there was a mast whose fumes were disrupting my peace, the noise from the generator. So this is me as an individual. And there were people in the house before I moved into the estate, but they didn't know their rights. I was inconvenienced. I found out my rights. I wrote to NCC and they dealt with it.
Exactly.
So you have to be able to know who is the regulator of the person that has been licensed to carry out whatever it is, so that you report that person who is infringing on your rights to be able to protect yourself.
So there are circumstances where some companies act unfairly. For instance, when they refuse to pay workers their salaries on time, or where workers are treated unfairly, or where information are being kept away from workers. What rights do stakeholders have in that regard?
So the beauty of corporate governance is that if you put up your structure properly and you're able to delineate responsibility, there's clarity as to who is responsible for what.
And at
right?
what point?
And at what point. If you have your employee handbook and it says that you're entitled to payment of salary by the 25th of January or 25th day of every month, it is your right, which you can take up with management.
And a lot of workers don't even look at their employee handbook.
So if you cannot read it, get somebody who can read it to interpret it for you, because there are so many rights embedded in your employee handbook. If you're entitled to severance, for example, when you resign, and you don't even know, and management is looking for how to run away from that responsibility, then you've done yourself in. It's not, you need to have the knowledge to be able to amplify and ask for and demand for your rights. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So what are those key principles of good corporate governance that basically every company should be seen to have it? And
transparency. That means your information architecture has to be solid. It has to be
intact.
Yes, between the shareholders and the board. It's not just between the staff and management. No, it is between the shareholders, the board, management, staff, and other stakeholders. And we just talked about stakeholders that even sound like they're remote, right? We just talked about phone users, for example. If MTN is sending you messages you're not asking for and they're disturbing, I didn't want to call any name. Anyway, if
a network provider,
if a network provider, I hope you edit this out. If your network provider is harassing you with calls and text messages that you don't want, you need to be able to say, so how the information architecture, know your rights and try to implement it. So back to the question of where
good corporate governance.
Yes. So transparency, accountability, responsibility. You understand, you need to have those things, and you need to know that you're responsible and you are accountable. Yes.
So for a lot of businesses, they are small or medium scale businesses. How can they incorporate corporate governance? You've talked about accountability, responsibility, transparency, but some SMEs might think, well, I am just a small business holder. What do I care about what they're talking about? I mean, corporate governance seems to be a very big word. So how can they incorporate corporate governance into such businesses?
So even for small businesses, you need to be able to say, I want to achieve ABC. Let's say you have a small strategic plan. I'm a pure water seller, but I want my business to scale up. So if I'm going to pitch to an investor in my business, it may be my uncle from the village, right? If I want to pitch the idea of buying more than 10 bags of sachet water, how am I going to sell my business to my uncle in the village to invest in the business so that he makes a profit and I make a better margin? So I'm talking about it on the
very least
on
level.
the grassroots level, right? And your uncle invests maybe into 50% of your business, and rather than him seeing returns, he's seeing that you're buying better clothes or better shoes. You've done yourself in. So as it sounds in the grassroots level, even for big corporations, when they want to invest in your business, they want to see that
There is transparency.
There is transparency, there's accountability. Your books, your audited accounts are clear, and they tell the story of the numbers
and now
of your organization. You're talking tax, where even little things, well, this is not even little. The diversity in your organization, is it an all-men management you have? If yes, why? Are there no competent women that can be your CFO or MD, CEO? These are international standards that if you're a big organization and you're looking for funding, and your corporate governance, and okay, maybe they check your books and they say, where's your board appraisal for the last 5 years? And your board has never appraised itself. It's a problem. So as much as you want to set it up and do it well, you also need to document.
Understand and also document.
Exactly.
So without understanding and even documenting what you're doing, it will be difficult for you to be able to open your books for transparency.
That's if you even have the books. Common having the statutory books that your company secretary, legal advisor is supposed to have.
Even for small businesses.
Report on use of seal. Some companies don't report. If you append your seal to a document, you're supposed to record it and present it to your board at meetings.
At the end of the day, whether it is a small business or it is a big business, it is important that you have corporate governance in place.
Succession, especially succession planning, especially for family business. It's for everybody. Succession planning is for every organization. But you find that some family businesses die with the founder, and it is because there is no deliberate succession plan. So by the time the founder goes, it's the end of it. So having a succession plan for an organization is very, very important, very, very key. Training, ensuring that the mission vision set for the company is not changed just at a whim. The foundation of the purpose of the company is something that everybody has to buy in from the beginning.
Yeah, talking about foundation, we'll come back to it.
Okay.
We'll take a short break.
Okay.
You're still watching You're Right on Trust TV. And we'll be back with this interesting discussion. I've come back. Thank you very much, Dr. Maryam. So, talking about transparency, what's the role of ethics in corporate governance?
Oh, it's very important. So, before I talk about ethics, I'll talk about leadership, because the board has the duty to provide leadership. And when we're talking about leadership, we're talking about ethics as well, because whatever culture the board comes with is what will cascade down to the bottom. You understand?
Yes.
So ethical leadership is culture, ethical leadership, standards, frameworks, policies, everything, because the board is the highest decision-making body of the organization, right? The board takes some of its mandate and gives management to say, okay, go and implement
As
for
the
us.
people who do the day-to-day.
They're the arms and legs,
Yes.
right? So it is the responsibility of the board to provide the ethical standards by, for example, disclosures, periodic disclosures to say, okay, we're talking about a contract and I have an interest in it. So when we're going to have our board meeting, I'm going to recuse myself to allow the other directors take a decision.
And that takes me to my next question.
Yes.
Asking about, issues that have to do with corruption and accountability in terms of having a conflict of interest during decision making.
The law requires that you declare if you have an interest. And it is best practice that when you declare, you recuse yourself. And there are times that, yes, you do have the conflict of interest, and then people just don't say anything. It's not ethical. So practicing those standards that the law requires and the code requires is in the best interest of the company. So it helps you abstain, remove yourself from situations that are not very favorable, right? You don't want to be, because as much as we're doing all of these things, we're talking about karma and the code, and you run a chance of, and the law is very strict on directors' duties. And we're not talking only about the duties of directors in companies. Now, even on boards of non-profits, the code is stringent.
Yes, exactly. And that is where I was actually going to. That can corporate governance apply to religious, cooperative, and community-based organizations?
And
because
the law
for a lot
is not
of people, they say,
smiling.
oh, I set up this trustee, so it is my business.
It's yes, you may have invested, but
you have the goals, you're the one with the vision, with the
when
goals,
the law comes after you, it will not be funny. So it is not that you set up a non-profit just so that you're making money off it. No, a non-profit is a separate entity, is not you. You're not it. Right? Just the way a company...
So the rules as to accountability...
You have to be accountable.
Yes, as ethical practices...
Yes.
Has to apply to everyone,
yes,
irrespective of the type of organization.
Exactly. And for non-profits, the code is stringent. I implore everybody who is on the board of a non-profit to take his or her time to go through it, because you don't want to be caught in that kind... Your reputation is something that you cannot play around with. So if you're supporting any board, you need to know the people you're working with, the intent with which the company is. If your visions and values don't align, it's better to just stay away, right? Because you don't want to be embroiled in... We know all these scandals that have happened around the world in corporate organizations. You can't talk about corporate governance in Nigeria without talking about the Cadbury case study. You can't talk about corporate governance in the world without talking about... There's so many examples. So you don't want to be embroiled in those kind of scandals.
So
Enron,
how can... examples major companies that
in the world. And you see, for both Enron and Cadbury, you realize that somebody didn't monitor as well as they should have. If management comes to you with a proposal to expand, and expansion means a lot of things to different organizations, and if it's not something that is workable, the board should be able to say, no, management, we're not accepting this because we don't agree with it. And that's why diversity is
important on your board.
Exactly.
So you have people with different intellect, people with different expertise to be able to look at it critically.
Look at the numbers, look at the figures, look at everything, the body language, and even the environment within which you operate.
So how can ordinary Nigerians, ordinary citizens promote governance in their workplaces or even their local groups or, religious? What can they do? After hearing you, a lot of people might begin to reflect. So how do I check this?
First of all, it's a mindset thing. I have had situations where when I'm talking, I can see the doubt, is it? About too much Turanchi. It's just Turanchi she's speaking. And
about whether this is actually possible within organizations?
It's not a remote thing. It is in everything that we do. So everything that affects you as an individual, if you're buying a service, if the organization, imagine investing in shares in a company whose governance structure is not up to par with the amount of investments made. And then one day, just like that.
There are situations, it has
happened so many times.
And that's because for most people, the due diligence that is expected to be made before you make investments into organizations. It's important. Not that because you hear a lot of people talk about an organization, you feel that everything is fine.
Exactly.
You have to do your due diligence. And part of doing the due diligence is to ensure that even their corporate governance practice is, top-notch.
Exactly.
It is in accordance with what the law is expecting them to do.
Are they having their board meetings regularly? What do they discuss in their meetings? Do they have, there are some things that sound little, but they're not, because they affect the overall output of an organization. So if you have a small business, you may not even have a big board, but it's important that you have an agenda, you know what you want to achieve, your strategic plan is what you're following, you see, now it will begin to sound like I'm speaking big grammar, but it is not. You have to have a vision of where you want to be from the day that you set out on the journey. On the journey, yes.
Thank you very much. This is the much that we can take today. We're really grateful with what you have shared with us today. Thank you. You have heard, corporate governance, it's not just about big companies. It's a principle for living and working responsibly. Whether you run a shop, lead a cooperative, or work in government, transparency, accountability, and fairness are the pillars of progress. Remember, good governance begins with you, in your work, in your leadership, and in how you treat others. I'm Hauwa Usman, and until next time, this has been your right on Trust TV. Stay safe and stay empowered.